Ciao everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I am making beads, and these are fabric covered beads. I love to make beads, and I have an entire playlist for all the different ways that I make them. Boho beads, fabric beads, sari silk beads, felt beads. I just did a video where I turned nuts and bolts and washers into beautiful beads. I love to do these spiral beads for my designs. This is the recent bead video, two recent videos. These are all nuts and bolts and washers and ferrites and ferros and literally things from my garage and from the hardware store. And then I did this video where you add a little bit of embroidery stitches to felt beads and some cup chain and just embellish them. And I turned this one into a convertible lariat to belt necklace. And then today's video, I'm going to be doing covering wooden beads. Does that make sense? Covering wooden beads, and also these cool wooden rings. This is an extremely inexpensive way to make your own beads. Let me show you some of the supplies that go into it. So first of all, my wooden beads are from the craft store, and there's two types. This type has a smooth hole inside, so fabric and things don't get snagged in raw wood. That's really not an issue for me. I work just fine with the ones that are pretty, rough, but they come different ways. And the thing that I really look for is a pretty large hole, because that gives you more options for the fabric that you can cover. So that's what I have, and let me just grab my supplies and just show you. This is how they come. These are oval unfinished. This was the one that said smooth snag free holes. These are my little wooden rings. These are like $1. I buy them when they're 50% off at the craft store, so they're a little over $1 per bag. Though the rings were probably the most expensive, and that's not much, but a little bit more than the beads. And then 99 cents for some square sequins and different size sequins. And then I did order these flat back crystals from Amazon, all different colors and sizes. So that's what you see embellishing this bead. And I am also using several different glues. Of course, my E6000, my gel Loctite super glue, a glue stick, believe it or not, just a regular school glue stick. So nothing expensive there. And then I have just an old art paintbrush and $1.25 for a small container of Mod Podge from the dollar store. And I do have some little scraps of fabric. It takes so little fabric, and I mean so little, like that's more than enough fabric for a dozen beads. And so where I get my fabric is also the dollar store. These were $1.25. They come like that. And then at the craft store, you can also get like fat quarters. And don't forget to check clearance for that. Now, this is my little package of sari silk, and this is the one, the next one that I'm going to be using. And I will try to link this for you. I hate to even show you how this came, because I've made a mess out of it, and I've been starting to organize it, but oh my goodness. This is, it won't even fit under the camera. This was a multicolor like bundle of sari silk ribbon, and I'll try to link that for you guys. I've had it for a few years, and I've made dozens and dozens and dozens of beads and projects with it. It's like a lifetime for me worth of sari silk, but I'm trying to go through it and just pull out some of the sections of color and be a little bit more organized, but that is a ton. So if you want to do this, and maybe you could share with a friend, once you invest in your sari silk. But I'm going to do one of the donut rings with the sari silk, and here's what the ones that I've done so far look like. And what I will say about this is I've tried so many different things for wrapping the rings, and nothing really looked as good to me as the sari silk. So you can really go into your stash. You can try ribbon, you can try piping or cording, but for me, the sari silk, just because you have to go around a circle in, with a strip and wrap tightly. And I actually love the little bit of a rough edge that kind of shows up in the wrapping. And so if you didn't see this video, I'm just going to show you. These are washers. So they're all wrapped and embellished, but I used cording for my washer beads and then used my E6000 glue to put some embellishments in the center. And one of you, Melanie Charno, she's such a doll and she's so supportive of so many of the jewelry makers, but she watched this video and she left me a comment that I didn't think of when I made these, but she said these would make such fabulous buttons for bracelet closures, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. Like, this one is perfect for that. So thank you for that idea, Melanie, and I really appreciate your comment because it was something I did not think of. So anyway, maybe the cording could work on the wooden donut beads, but since I'd already done that, I wanted to, do something different. And then what you will need, I go ahead and attach my bead caps to my fabric beads. I go ahead and glue them on because I like the bead to look finished and lovely when I'm finished. So what you see here is my teeny tiny little spacers, my sequins. So I've just gone into my stash and pulled out my tiniest little daisy spacers. I had these tiny little ring spacers that's what I glued onto here. Isn't it cool? It's so pretty. I just love it. And then I always, when I'm making beads, I go into my bead cap supply, my glue on cord caps, my large disc spacers. They work really well. You'll need larger bead caps for wooden beads that are fabric wrapped because they just become larger when you do all of that. And so I like to have these things handy. And then this is one that I've already turned it into a little tassel drop. So this could be the focal on a necklace. I love these for bookmarkers, to be at one end of a bookmarker. And so here's one of those cool flower bead caps, one of my rings, just a solid ring that I had in my stash. And this is a great way to use up odds and ends. If you end up with just one bead cap left over, you can do that with it. I made my own little head pin for this. So these beads are, when you make them, they're just, the sky is the limit. I'll show you also one of my bookmarkers. I'm so silly. I actually have two bookmarkers in my book that I'm reading right now. This was the Barnes & Noble pick of the month, and it's so good. But this is one of my bookmarkers that I do on elastic cord that wraps around your page. But this is, let me take it out so you can see. That is one of my handmade beads just turned into one end of my bookmarker, and I use this ball chain, really fine ball chain, and then put a little embellishment on the other end. And to me, having book jewelry is just, it's one of my favorite things to make and to have. I have a whole separate jewelry box for my book jewelry because I absolutely love to make these. But your handmade beaded beads work really great for things like that. So how I start is my beads look really funny. They look like this. And what you see here is a few of them that I've set up ahead of time. So if you peek inside, you'll see that that is one of my smooth round beads. Let's see what this one is. This is one of the darker wooden beads with the larger hole. And let's see, come back, little bead. Oh, and this is one of the kind of raw beads. And so these have been started with the wrapping and they've been sitting up for about an hour. I actually set these up and then did my morning power walk. And so why I do that is so that I can pull really, really hard to finish off my ends, and this part is glued down and in place. So I'll show you how I do that. Now I'm going to use just this little scrap of orange, and I have a separate pair of scissors. These are my fabric scissors for when I'm doing sewing projects, and I never cut anything except fabric with these, so they are very, very sharp. And I would advise that because it makes since you're working with such tiny bits of fabric, it makes everything finish up a lot more neat. And so here's where I start with my glue stick. And let's see, what am I going to do? The other thing is, when you lay your bead in your fabric, this is not wide enough for this bead, because if you don't have at least a 1/2 inch of fabric going past the end of your bead, you won't get a nice, neat, easy finish. So I'm going to have to go down to, that one's pretty good. I'll do this one. So I'm just going to come right here and put some glue across, just a little glob of glue across my bead, and then I'm going to lay my fabric. You can either embrace the little, you know, the little fringing. I think it adds to the boho quality and texture to have like some fringiness, but like on this one, the selvage edge of the yardage is here, and that can work in your favor too. Like sometimes I actually use that. So I'm just going to flatten this down onto my bead, and I'm letting some of the glue squish out. You can guess why. And when I look at my bead in here, I have at least 1/2 inch, you know, to 3/4 of an inch of fabric on each side. And I'm just going to roll this around, kind of keeping the bead in the center. And when I meet up with my other end, then I'm just going to come right here with my nice sharp scissors and cut a nice straight clean line. And it is surprising how well a glue stick works. It's not super wet, so it works really well without staining the fabric. And it dries pretty quickly, and you're going to need to get your fingers. Your fingers are a lot of times your best tool, so it's a glue that just washes right off your hands too. I don't like making a mess. I don't like projects that are messy. So for me, I like to set my beads up, my first part up like that. And I'm just going to get a little bit of glue right here where my two pieces meet. Now you can leave your fabric beads totally plain after they're done. I can hardly contain myself. I can't leave them alone. It is so fun to embellish. Like, look at this with the crystals glued on it. It's so fun. I could do this all day long. So that's what I do. And as you see, I have a few here, and I just set them up ahead of time, choose my bead and my different fabrics, and I will set that aside to dry. So now we can wrap one. When I'm doing my beads, I like to make a bunch at one time. And so I have a plastic project tray, and I have a wet paper towel here, and you will need some kind of a pokey tool. A chopstick works really well. I found this in my garage. I have no idea what it is. A beading awl works really well. You will need a pokey tool and even like a piece of wire to make sure that your holes are clear. I'm just going to set that off to the side here, and I'm going to come in with my little paintbrush and get the lid off my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to dip my paintbrush into my Mod Podge. And I'll do this one first. I'm going to get inside here with my Mod Podge, and see, you're going to get some, this is in essence it's white glue. You're going to get some in the hole, which you need to, because we need to, oh, I forgot to show you how I did the little tabs. I am so sorry. Let me get this one done and I'll show you exactly how I did the little tabs. So here's where your pokey tool, unless you want to get your fingers in there, but I will just come in with my, either your beading awl, even like a piece of 16 gauge wire can work really well for just getting your fabric pushed inside the bead. But unless you have super large holes on your bead, you need to have a couple of different things that are sharp. So like you can already see, my chopstick is not going in, so I'll come in with my beading awl, and that's why I also have a piece of wet paper towel so I can wipe the glue off things. And because I started my bead ahead of time, I can pull on it because the center here is already dry and set up. So I just want to make sure that hole is clear, so I'm pushing my beading all the way through. And just take your time and like get that fabric tucked. And I'm so sorry I did my cuts and I meant to show you that before I set that bead aside to dry. So I'll back up a little bit here after I get this in. But you want to make sure that you don't have this hole so full that you don't have a bead anymore. So your beading awl works really great for that, because you can see that you have the power, because it's nice and thick, to push right through, and I can even see through my bead. And then if you have anything like this that you don't like, you can smooth it out. So let me show you, once you've wrapped your fabric, take your very, very sharp scissors, and you just want to make little slits, and you're just going to cut like where you can just feel the tip of your scissors basically touching the edge of your bead inside. And don't do them too wide. If you do more narrow slits, then it's a little bit easier to wrap. And where the fabric has overlapped, come inside and get rid of those, because you really don't want bulk around your bead hole. And so you see why really sharp scissors is important. And so I usually do this at the same time that my glue is setting up around the center of the bead. I usually go ahead and do my little slits and get this ready for wrapping. So now it truly is ready to wrap after it dries. Clean up a little bit. And so also, like a wet paper towel, I like to keep my tools clean. So I wipe the Mod Podge off my tools and my fingers as I go. And then I'm ready to do this side. And so I'm going to do the same thing again, just get inside here and get some of that Mod Podge around the edge a little bit, get it on the inside. And you can wet the fabric too. You can get some on the fabric. And then same thing again. Just whatever pokey tool you have that you can find. But see how you don't want your little tabs, you don't want it to be too short, because you really need to be able to go inside the bead with all your little tabs. And also here, since the center is all dry, I can push on this, I can pull, and I'm not pulling the fabric off of this part of my bead because I set that up. So it gives you some leverage, some tugging leverage. And anything that you want to smooth out, or any raw edge of the fabric that you think needs a little bit of coverage, just so it doesn't fray, and just to make sure that it is adhered to the wood bead on the inside. Now's the time to do that, and just look at your bead from all sides and push things into place. Look at that, isn't it so pretty? So you see why, now you can see why I really prefer to go ahead and glue my bead caps on the end, because to me from here it's just so fun to actually make a completely finished bead. But you could wrap all your beads and then of course do your bead caps when you're actually stringing something with them. But I like to go ahead and play in my mixes here and see what I have that is going to finish it off nicely. That fits on there so beautifully. But I also have these Kumi glue on end caps, and even that would make the coolest little pendant. I might have to even get a bigger bead and do that. even a smaller one that you can glue right onto the outside. But I think on these, I'm going to do this here. So I'm going to use my E6000 for that. And again, when you're doing this, look at that. It's amazing how your holes don't want to stay clear. So just make sure that before things are dry and set up, that you have not inadvertently put, you know, things in your hole, in your bead hole, that will keep you from actually being able to work with it. And what I love about all the glues that I'm using, including the gel Loctite super glue, including the E6000, is it's very relaxing, and there's nothing that's going to dry so fast that you don't have time to kind of work with things. So I'm going to go ahead and like set this one up. And then I keep little scraps of wire. So like here, if I needed to clean up the edges, or even a toothpick. And I'll just look at my bead from all angles just to make sure that I have really centered my bead cap, and then just to make sure that that hole is clear, still clear, and come to this side and do the same thing. Now just check from all sides so that bead can sit here and dry. And I'll show you how I did the wrapping for one of the ring beads. So I'm going to come back with my glue stick and just get a little smear of glue on my ring. And this time I've decided to wrap with this pretty yellow sari silk. And I'm just going to come in here with the edge of this and get it over that little dollop of glue that I put there. You could set this one up ahead of time as well to dry, but since I'm going to hold this and pull, and so these are you know, a little bit more tricky, I guess, just because you can't like wrap like that. You have to keep pulling your material, your sari silk, through the center. But I'm going to wrap on top and get this little angle going. And I am pulling really tight. You do want to pull tight when you're wrapping. And I quite love the raw, like, I love that. I think it adds such a cool, like, boho quality. But you could fold your sari silk so that you're not seeing that rough edge. In other words, you can fold it so that you're wrapping this clean edge, like a folded edge, or alternate. You know, it's very thin and it's very, very easy to maneuver. And the thing is, you just want to get it even. You want even, you don't want to have like where you've wrapped, overlapped in your wrapping so that you have a thick side. You want to just like do a nice even overlap all the way around the ring. And you know, just with every wrap, I just have a look at my placement, and so that gave me like a clean edge here and a little bit of a rustic edge there. And I love that. It's that tactile, beautiful boho quality. Since I've finished my wrapping on the inside, I'm just going to hold my finger there for a second and just, I don't want to come unraveled till I'm certain that my glue is really stuck down, and it's not. I'm going to have to I didn't get enough glue on my tail end. So I really do like the glue stick for this, because I can come here and get it onto my silk and then kind of twist it around, see, like go in the direction I need it to go. And this is also where your pokey tool can help you, even on these rings, because you can really push things around with the tool tight. And I just see that right here, I'm not super tight and I'm not really adhered down, so I'm just going to get a little bit of my Mod Podge there. Just want to make sure your bead does not come unraveled. That is just gorgeous. I love the sari silk wrapping for the rings. And I had such a cool idea for these rings. I have this 4-size assortment of these diamond cut jump rings. And I was thinking how gorgeous it would be to link these together with giant jump rings when they're all dry, and you could either make a bracelet or the bottom part of a necklace, you know, like make a chain of your wrapped rings with these giant decorative rings. I don't know if that's what I'm going to do, because normally I just sit and make a bunch of things, but when I was making them, I was thinking how gorgeous it would be. And you could even make your own jump rings with a really fine, like a 18 gauge wire, and make them as large as you want and create like a chain with these silk rings, and, you know, do all different colors. You guys may see that. You guys may see that for sure. So let me jump to clean my fingers a little bit, and I'm going to show you how I set like the little crystals and anything like this if you want to embellish further. And also I'll show you how I did the wire if you want to make like this is so cool. Again, if you want to put a jump ring through the bottom and add something to it, and you have a wrapped loop here, this could be a pendant. You could do so much with this. I just was playing with wire. I wanted to lay wire on top of it the way that I laid some wire on top of this little filigree bead cap. I just made a little loop on one of the filigrees and did this little spiral wire on this one. I love the way the wire looks laying on top of things. You can just have so much fun with your embellishment. Once I have my beads made, the embellishing part is so fun. I could sit and do it all day. So I'm going to let me take the one that's already dry, and I'm going to add some things onto it. And I love those. I love those little gold rings that I had. Any tiny little spacer bead or bead cap. I mean, let your creativity just go crazy. Let me make a little space here. So I'm just going to get like the teeny tiniest little bead of my gel. It really doesn't take much, like that's even too much. And you can use tweezers or your pliers, but I'm just going to set one of these little rings, and I'm going to put a little sequin in the center. So I have one of these little tools for picking up sequins, and I think I'm just going to do all different colors. I could do this all day. Look at that, so pretty. So you can design your embellishments any way you want. I just came directly across, and I think I'm going to just do the same thing here, do one up here, just a tiny little drop. It's not even a drop, it's not even a bead, it's like a bead of glue, I guess. I could do this all day. Once I have my beads made, this part is so fun. I just get a little bit of the glue on my metal ring. And I'm going to come across, directly across. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'll let that dry and then I'll flip it over and do the other side. And then on this one, do I want to do wire? What do I want to do? That's the fun. You have to like decide how you want to embellish and just adhere it. And of course, like I said, you can leave them plain if you want to. I could not help myself though. It's so fun. As I said, I could sit and do this all day, and I have. I have done this all day. I also love, if you didn't notice, I love mixing copper, gold, silver, antique bronze. It just adds to the boho and highly textural quality of these beads. Just go around. Whoops. Just go around. Just randomly. I have a little bit of a pattern on this fabric, so I can either use that or, you know, go just depending on the fabric that you have. I don't know if my and like I said, the decorating part to me is even more fun than actually wrapping the beads. But I do have two more to do. Let me show you this one. This is one of the natural beads with the smooth hole. So I'll go ahead and do this one. Just gonna get a little, like I said, you can see that if you have a larger hole, it really does make this so much easier. You have less of a chance of blocking your hole. So, you know, do that at your discretion. So also, when you've set this up and when you leave yourself that 1/4 to 1/2 inch, it gives you, especially on these round beads, it gives you something to hold on to. I'm going to go back to my beading awl. Just that pokey tool just makes it so that you can really smooth the fabric. Really make sure that it's smooth and that you like the way it's ending up. And I would say that of all the beads shapes, these smaller round ones are the most difficult because you don't have a lot of space to work. Like when you push your fabric and get this end just the way that you want it, you can often disturb the other end because this is so short here, and also because it's round, you don't have as much leverage as you do with the barrel beads or the oblong beads. So I would say these are the little round ones are the most difficult to get them wrapped, but it can be done. You just have to go side to side on these and keep checking to make sure that you have everything tucked, that it's going to dry the way you want, but also that your bead hole is clear. So, you know, just like play in your stash. These also are really pretty if you glue a ring and then one of these flowers. It looks like a pineapple. Look at that. Isn't that cute? It looks like a little pineapple. And these are so cool because you can actually put a bead in there like I did on this one. I popped a little silver bead in the top of that. They're really cool. So just play in your bead caps. I'll link these. I think I know where I got these. I'll link these for you guys when I edit the video. But I think on this one, I think I'm going to just use this pretty lacy one. And so same thing, I'm going to go back to my E6000 for this and just put a little bit of E6000 around the edge, making sure that I'm not blocking the bead hole. I can still see through. And like I said, you don't have to do this. You could just cover them in fabric and use bead caps when you start stringing. But for me, I just really like to have a really finished and lovely bead when I'm all done. And I set this all aside to dry and go on to something else. Do you guys want to see what I did to wire wrap this ring? I guess I'll do this one just to show you what I did. For those of you that want to see the wire wrapping part, let me clear a little space and get a length of 20 gauge. Actually, I'm going to switch to 22 gauge. Perfect for this. It's got an anti-tarnish coating, and I'm going to be pretty generous here so that I have all these creative possibilities. Just going to take off a pretty good length. And there was a little dark spot right here on my silk, so I'm going to come inside. My wire is hitting everything. I'm going to come inside and pull this up really nice and tight around my ring. So use my pliers to help me just pinch that together nice and tight. And I'm going to take this shorter wire and wrap it around. Snip that off. It doesn't matter the way that I did this, if that's messy or not, because I'm going to wrap right on top of it. So I'm going to come here and get a hold of this and do a wire wrapped loop. So I'm going to do a 90-degree bend, and I'm going to have to pull out of the camera because of the length here of my wire. But I'm going to do a normal wire wrapped loop here. So I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers right there. And in order to wrap that over, I do have to back away from the camera. It's always so hard to do wire working underneath the camera lens, but I'm just getting a wire wrapped loop in here, so it looks like that. And now I'm going to grab a hold of that loop, and again I'm going to have to go out of the camera, but I'm just going to wrap down and wrap right on top of that and come right down to my ring. I did this really chunky, messy wrap here, which I don't do a lot of, but these boho designs with the raw edge of the silk, that kind of messy, little bit haphazard coil there just looks great. So now I'm just going to kind of follow the natural path of the wire, and it's the same thing with these donuts. Without kinking the wire, you have to kind of go through the center and get your spiral in there. Really, it's really the same thing that we did with the silk. And I'm just going to work my way around to the top here and then wrap again right on top of those wraps. I guessed pretty well about my length. I got just back around just perfectly. And just wrap that around and tuck it in. And the wire just looks, to me, it looks so great laying on the silk. It just further embellishes it. And so you have this really cool pendant or connector, like I said, those large jump rings, and then doing something even like, a tassel beneath this. These are just so cool. Or you could wire wrap them and you double wire wrap them and connect them that way, but they're just so cool. So I'm gonna finish my next two beads. And so just to show you these with the much larger hole and these that are slightly oblong, they are much easier to wrap than these little round beads. I love the round ones. I love the shape of them. But if you're just starting out and you've never done anything like this before, maybe look for more of a barrel or an oblong bead, and definitely look for the largest holes that you can get, because those large holes really help you when you're getting your fabric tucked in, and not to have a hole that's not clear. So these that's what these look like, and it just, as you can see, it just makes a much easier workup, if that's even the right way to say that. So I'm just going to finish these beads, and like I always do for you guys, a little bit better picture. And I hope you'll give this a try. I'd love to hear back from you if you do, if you already have some of these supplies, because you can really, truly, you can use tiny scraps of ribbon. You know, I think all of us crafters, I think we have some of these supplies already, but I will put links in the description box for as much as I can find for those of you that are interested in making your own beads, but you don't have a lot to work with yet. And I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and it is always greatly appreciated if you take a second to tap the thumbs up. And right next to the thumbs up button now, there is a feature that's brand new to the YouTube algorithm that allows you to hype a video, and it really signals to the algorithm that this is a quality channel and that they should show it to more people. So if you would do that, I would greatly appreciate it. And I thank you all so much for watching, and I will be back. I have another bead making video up my sleeve. As you see, it's something that I really love to do. It's so fun, and the embellishing and having your own handmade beads is so great.